Prosper Log, show date 140913. How's everybody doing tonight? I'm doing well. I'm doing logically well. This week's unofficial sponsor of this log is Wally's Aluminum Shaping Process. I haven't had a chance to meet this guy yet, but from what I understand, he can make you anything out of aluminum art. If you want a Klingon Empire logo, if you want the Borg hand, if you want the Federation, he can do it. All you gotta do is hit him up. Find him at facebook.com/waspa. All right. Let's get to first things first. Let's get to the beer. This week's beverage of choice from Lakefront Brewery Company IPA. 6.6% ABV. This one actually says it. Gotta do it the right way. Prosper mug. Proper opening device. Proper technique. Oh yeah, look at that. That's a good pour right there. Good color, good pour. I like it. Alright, well, cheers to y'all. Or as they'd say in the Klingon Empire, kapla! That's good stuff. That is some good stuff right there. I'll take it. I'll drink it any day. Alright, let's get to the birthday, shall we? Only got 2 of them this week. This should be a quick show then, I hope. Only got 2 birthdays this week. First one is Geoff Fritz. Now, I went through a management course with this guy a couple years ago in Germany. Did it make me a better leader? Hell, I don't know, probably not. But hey, Geoff, I hope things are going well for you. You know, I hope life's treating you well. You and your wife and your daughter well. I'll drink to you on the event of your birthday. All right, the other birthday for this week, from the 10th. Pam Sanders. Now, I knew her as Pam Hoover. Hagerstown High School, class of 2000. The last class of the last millennium. Pam, I hope life's treating you well. Hope everything's going good for you. I will drink to you also on the event of your birthday. Alright, birthdays, done. Let's throw it out to some other people I have met on the old fart book. First one, George Seckman. Now, I haven't met George in person yet, but I'm at Earth Station Okinawa. He's actually up on mainland Japan. George, or is it Mike? Which do you prefer, George or Mike? Let me know. I want to make sure I address you properly. George, Mike, whatever you go by. Hey, you, if it's me. I hope your Chiefs do good, but at the same time, I hope they don't do that good. No offense, man. You know. It's just football love. Here's to you. Alright. Now, you remember how I mentioned that Geoff and I went through a management course a couple years ago? Well, this next gal, Brandy Ford, she and I went through the same course together with Geoff. Brandy, I hope life's treating you well. I hope things are going good for you. You are living in North Kakalaki, if I remember correctly. Brandy, I'll drink one for you. All right, next up. Now, this guy is as big a Star Trek nut as I am. Even though I have yet to meet him, I've been talking with him for years on Facebook. In the football trash talk post. That is Sven Campbell. Sven, last count I had, you're living in Arkansas. Let me know if I'm right. Let me know if I'm wrong. But hey, I'm looking forward to meeting you someday. You and I can throw back some cold ones. Alright, next on the list. This gal runs the Facebook group Live Long and Eat Well. Kind of a Star Trek based Facebook group that promotes healthy eating. Her name is Angela Jacobs. Angela, how's it going? Life treating you okay? I hope so. Life's doing good for me. I've got it made good here at Earth Station Okinawa. Angela, put out some of those good Star Trek recipes, will you? I'm interested to see what you can come up with and what you got. And let's drink. Excuse me. Now, here's a gal I knew in Germany that I just recently reconnected with on Facebook. Ashlee Batista. Now, she is 49ers? Diehard 49ers fan? Well, you had to have been happy last week when Dallas practically gave you guys the ball and scored twice in the first 2 minutes of the game. Ashlee, I hope you and Rainer are doing well, and I will drink to you too. Alright. And finally, this guy and his wife that I'm getting ready to talk about, he just went through the same management course I went through. I'm talking about Peter Cologne. Peter, I hope you learned a lot in that class. I hope you do better. I hope you do better applying all the principles than I have been here recently. And I just saw recently where you and your wife Suzy, your better half, actually went out for a movie last night after this class. You two deserved it, especially after being drained like that. You two deserved a good night out together. I know you two don't drink, but I will drink for you. Excuse me. Alright. Greetings. Done. Let's move on to some Star Trek birthdays, shall we? Well, since the 8th, we've only had one. And she was born on what we now know as our generation's day of infamy, 9/11. She was born back in 58. I'm talking about the lovely Roxann Dawson. She played Lieutenant B'Elanna Torres on Star Trek Voyager, the ship's chief engineer. And you know what? For being 56 years old, she still looks pretty good. That one's worthy of a drink right there. Bandana is slipping down. All right, now let's talk a little football, shall we? I always give Cincinnati crap for not being a legit football team, but I just recently read something on Facebook that much respect to, the prosper salute to. They recently cut Devon Still from the team. They recently released him from the practice squad. Well, turns out his daughter is battling cancer. His 4-year-old daughter, I think she is, battling cancer. So what the Bengals did? They signed him onto the practice squad so that they could keep his insurance, so that he could keep his insurance and be able to continue treating his daughter. Well, now he's on the active roster. Cincinnati Bengals, this is for you. I give you guys a lot of crap, but with stuff like this, I think that things like this is what Gene Roddenberry had in mind in his vision for the human race when he created Star Trek in his utopian future. I give you guys a salute for that. Now, excuse me, got to flip the other side of the coin. We got to look at something bad. It's one of those things we got to talk about, if nothing else, just to get it out of the way. We're going to talk about Ray Wife-Beater Rice. Apparently, back in April, a video was submitted to the NFL commissioner, and he was like, yeah, okay. And that was it. Oh, I'm sorry. Suspended him for 2 games. He gets that for beating his then-fiancée. Now this video has leaked. It has gone viral. And Ray Rice is no longer a Raven. For beating the crap out of your wife, I got something for you. Hey kids, look! A deer! Yeah. That's what I'm talking about. In not even 2 days, he was released from the Ravens. He lost his endorsements. And Madden now has a patch to where Ray Rice is no longer on the team. Good job. Good job. That is dumb. That's worse than slapping a woman. He knocked her the F out. Yeah, Ray Rice, nice knowing you, but not really. All right. Okay, I went off a little bit of a rant. Sorry about that. Let's get back on track. Football picks for the week. I've only got one because by the time I record another episode, only 2 games will have been played, but this game will not have been covered yet. Tampa Bay and Atlanta. I saw how Atlanta played against New Orleans the other day. Yeah, going with Atlanta. Got to go with Atlanta. All right. Football. Done. All right. Now, let's get back to talking some Trek, shall we? This week's episode, the Corbomite Maneuver. The Enterprise is on a map making mission. Go figure, right? Because what's one of Starfleet's standing missions? To seek out new life and new civilizations. And boldly going where no man has gone before. Well, the Enterprise did just that. As they were on a map making mission, they encountered a cube buoy of sorts that started emitting radiation after transmitting a warning to basically turn around and go home. Don't go any further. Well, you know what the Enterprise did? They did not turn around. But instead, Captain Kirk came to the bridge. He's like, blow it up. Excuse me. He blew it up. He proceeded further on his mission, and he encountered a giant freaking dodgeball in space. Essentially. This is a cluster ship known as the First Federation. Don't ask me where the name came from. I could not tell you. But essentially, Captain Kirk plays cat and mouse with Commander Balak, leading to Captain Kirk bluffing him, stating that since Starfleet ships have been built, there has been a device incorporated into the construction, but not into the databanks, of something called Corbomite. So as a result, Balak decides not to destroy the Enterprise, but to take it to a planet to have its crew imprisoned, and test this Corbomite device. Well, as a smaller ship departs the giant freaking dodgeball and tractors the Enterprise to a nearby planet, Captain Kirk manages to pull away while having Commander Balak send out a distress call. Captain Kirk moves in to make contact to find out it was all a test. Kirk leaves behind Navigator Bailey, who is... Sorry, he's not the best. He's not model Starfleet officer. But the way Kirk looked at it, you'll learn more about us that way. And I agree. Nobody's perfect. If somebody was perfect, introduce them to me. I would like to meet that person. All right, let's go behind the scenes. A line from Balak warning the crew they had 1 minute left was not recorded, leaving Sulu to comment, "I knew he would," in response to nothing. The preview has an unused cut of Balak saying, "We grant you 1 minute," that could be modified and dubbed into the episode. Spock confesses an ignorance of poker, and he probably wouldn't enjoy the game since he had said in The Doomsday Machine that Vulcans do not bluff. Part of engineering's location is referred to in this episode. Kirk orders Bailey to coordinate drills with engineering, and Bailey says on 2 different occasions, "On the double, Deck 5, give me the green light." And also, "Engineering Deck 5, report. Come on, phaser crews, let's get with it." He could either be referring to an engine room in the saucer on Deck 5 or a separate engineering Deck 5 that exists in the lower levels where some kind of engineering is referenced to be in the episodes like The Enemy Within, The Conscience of the King, and Day of the Dove. When addressing the Fesarius, Kirk identifies his ship as the United Earth Ship Enterprise. Nomenclature which was never used again. Darn right it was never used again, it was a little old. Balak displays a knowledge of Earth popular culture. When discussing the false Balak, which was that gruesome puppet with the bigger head that was just like... He referred to it as the Mr. Hyde to my Jekyll. However, the methods that Balak employed in this episode actually bore much similarity to The Wizard of Oz. The dimensions, 107 meters on a side, and mass, 11,000 metric tons, of the cube imply an average density of 9 kilograms per cubic meter, only 7 times that of Earth air at sea level. No known solid materials are that light, although aerogels, which are mostly air, are lighter. All right. Now, in production order, Leonard McCoy, ooh, that's awfully close. Leonard McCoy, Janice Rand, and Uhura debut here. This was actually the 3rd episode produced, but the 10th to air. More of that. Sulu has transferred to the Command Division from the Sciences Division following his premiere in Where No Man Has Gone Before. This is the first episode in which he occupies his familiar seat at the helm. The change was made because the producers realized there's no need for an astrophysicist in every episode. Yet they had to have someone sitting at the helm. Couldn't think of a better choice. Michael Dunn, popular at the time for his role as Dr. Lovelace in The Wild Wild West, was an early choice for the part of Balak. However, Gene Roddenberry thought something much more weird would be more effective, leading to 6-year-old Clint Howard being cast. And that also led to Clint Howard being cast later on. We'll get to that as this show progresses. Dunn later appeared as Alexander in Plato's Stepchildren. No, I'll touch that later. Makeup artist Fred Phillips originally wanted to shave Clint Howard's head. However, the boy and his father denied his request, and Howard wore a bald cap in his appearance as Balak. You know, you look at it, you never would have known. Both Stuart Moss and Bruce Mars were considered for the role of Dave Bailey before Anthony Call was eventually cast. Some sources list both actors as appearing in background roles in the episode, however, they seem to be cut from the final print. The Tranya served by Balak was actually grapefruit juice. Clint Howard, who was a little kid at the time, had to pretend very hard to like the drink, which he found distasteful. And you know, you watch the final cut of the episode, and you watch him drink the Tranya, you would never know it. That young man back then was a good actor for his time. You know what? Prosper salute on that one. Gotta love it. Gotta love it. As a 6-year-old, you never would have thought he hated it. Gotta love it. Alright. Here's a good one. Here's something you need to go back and look for. James Doohan's wartime injury to his right hand is briefly visible in the conference room scene when he passes a coffee thermos. Generally, this was carefully hidden off camera, but it can also be seen when he's holding a phaser in Cat's Paw as he carries a large bundle of tribbles in The Trouble with Tribbles. As he reverses the probe polarity in That Which Survives, and very briefly in freeze frame when he's reaching into the box to restrain the evil dog in The Enemy Within. There's also a couple more instances I can think of. Memory Alpha, you missed this one. In Star Trek IV, when he is interacting with, what's his name? Dr. Nichols, Dr. Nichols at the Plexicor plant. When he shakes his hand, and when he is using the computer, you can tell. And in Star Trek V, The Final Frontier, when he is busy repairing the Enterprise, and actually his first appearance in that movie, and Uhura brings him lunch. You can see the middle finger missing when he is tearing into his lunch. Memory Alpha, here's one for you. Kids, look, a deer! Alright, let me move on. This is the first episode to include pointed sideburns on all of the male crew members. Hey, it's about time. It was early in production, you know? It happens. Many of the extras credited to the extras list were cut from the final print, including Sean Morgan, Bruce Mars, and Stuart Moss. Hey, here's one that might interest Josh Baker of Beer and Song of the Day. Jonathan Goldsmith, stage name Jonathan Lip, better known as the most interesting man in the world, in the popular Dos Equis brand beer commercials, was briefly seen on camera as an unnamed crewman. You know that meme of his out there that says, "I don't always wear a red shirt, but when I do, I survive the entire episode"? That's why, folks. I'm gonna have to go. I'm gonna have to do some research, see if I can find a picture of him in the episode. But I've seen it before. I have seen it before. All right. This episode was originally scheduled to air much earlier than it did, but the large amount of visual effects took several months to complete. The producers had to delay the planned air date twice before eventually broadcasting the Corbomite Maneuver as the 10th episode of the season. There were quite a bit of visual effects in there, and for the 60s, I believe it. I seriously believe it. In the original version of the series, this was the first episode in which the forward sections of the warp engine nacelles were made to glow. Though in the teaser, this didn't happen because it seems to have used footage from The Cage. In the remastered the original series, however, this is no longer true, as the nacelles of the ship are uniformly shown to glow. The distinctive bridge sound effects of the original series are first heard in this episode. Early episodes of The Twilight Zone, notably Execution from 1960, previously featured this distinctive computer sound. Josh Baker, verify that. The set of Balak's room was a redress of the Enterprise conference room set inside. It was later recycled to create the bar and court-martial, later reused in The Trouble with Tribbles. In terms of its order on the production schedule and its order of televised broadcast, this episode marks the very first time that the Enterprise fires its phasers. The actual burst that the ship fires at the warning buoy is unique to this episode. The shot of the ship being towed by the small First Federation pilot vessel from a perspective behind the nacelles was reused countless times in future episodes, with different ships or planets matted in. When it was used later, it was often slowed down, which made it much more grainy than the clear print in this episode. Around halfway in the second season, this shot was replaced by a much better looking new shot of the ship. Although we never learned the specific dimensions of the Enterprise during the series, it is established visually to be bigger than the cube, which Suzy says is 107 meters on each side. Whew. This episode contains a number of firsts for the costume department. Although some of the pilots' uniforms were seen on background extras, this is the first episode in which black collars on tunics appear. Nevertheless, some of the uniforms, particularly Spock's, have higher, loose turtleneck black collars than would generally appear throughout the series. In Sulu's first close-up, the zipper built into the collar is clearly visible. Because he was wearing a leftover from the first two pilots that was retrofitted, not quite expertly, with the new black collar. Additionally, the Corbomite Maneuver saw the initial appearance of skirt uniforms, as well as plunging neckline collars for most women. Red Operations Division tunics were also seen for the first time here, as was the silk short-sleeve laboratory tunic for the CMO. The system of sleeve rank insignia was also more refined in this episode than it had been in either pilot. Noticeably, Kirk first wore the insignia he would display throughout the series, and the rank stripes themselves on a more wavy, stylized design than the simple braids that had been in the previous pilots, complete with broken bits of braid to denote the ranks of Lieutenant Junior Grade, Lieutenant Commander, and Captain. Finally, beginning with this episode, the men's uniforms featured a raglan construction like that found in crewman sweaters, with the tops of the sleeves reaching all the way up to the collar. In the two previous pilots, the uniform sleeves were constructed like those in men's dress shirts, with their tops ending at the upper arm. Despite the introduction of the Red Operations Division tunic in this episode, Uhura is seen wearing a gold Command Division uniform, both here and in Mudd's Women. She also incongruously wears a Science Division assignment patch rather than the appropriate command star. In addition, in the bridge scene following the destruction of Balak's cube, several crew members who are repairing the damage can be seen wearing blue uniforms without black collars that were left over from the pilots. When Kirk leaves sickbay, he throws his uniform shirt over his shoulders. The tunic has only two solid gold rank stripes. In the turbolift and changing in his quarters, his tunic has the 2.5 stripe marking. When McCoy enters the bridge right after Balak announced the impending destruction of the Enterprise, he is wearing a Standard Sciences Division uniform, but in later shots he is shown in the short-sleeved tunic, having not left the bridge or have any opportunity to change his clothing during that time. But when he takes Bailey to his quarters, he's back in the standard uniform, which he remains in for the rest of the episode. There are signs of this being an early production, such as a bridge chair squeaking rather loudly near the end of the episode when Uhura is listening in on Balak's distress call, as well as hearing the ship's doors, made of wood, slide on the stage floor as they open and close. Stage noises were edited out of later episodes. Instead of reusing the bridge home station as in the 2 pilot episodes, a dedicated transporter console makes its debut. Jeez, Windsor. The top was painted black and the intercom stands alone on the top of the console. Beginning with Mudd's Women, the next episode to be filmed, the console would be painted its customary reddish-orange in all subsequent episodes, and the intercom would be bracketed by 2 alert lights. The panel scene behind Balak when Kirk, McCoy, and Bailey first beam aboard the pilot ship was later used as the main panel in the Enterprise engineering room. The interior of Balak's ship was a redress of the briefing room set, as can be seen on production photos. Several set pieces from it were reused in the Starbase bar in Court Martial. When Kirk reports to the bridge from the turbolift, a rare camera angle from the elevator illustrates the panel to the right of the main view screen, and the 2 bridge consoles to the left of the science station. These sections were usually rolled out off-screen to facilitate filming the navigation console and Spock station. Like where No Man Has Gone Before, the turbolift has double doors. The inner is gray, the outer is red, like modern elevators. Well, not like modern elevators. It has double doors like modern elevators, but not those colors. This feature was later eliminated, probably because it was too cumbersome to maintain. Makes sense. The screensaver animation on the main bridge view screen from Where No Man Has Gone Before is just barely visible over Bailey's shoulder during the repair scene after the battle with the cube buoy. The colors of the cube buoy reflect on the railings at the front of the bridge. When this perspective was later reused as a stock view screen shot for the next 3 seasons, the reflecting light still showed up on the railings. A new stock shot of the view screen was made in the middle of the 2nd season. Also filmed for this episode, by associate producer Robert H. Justman, was George Takei's reaction shot in which he turned around and looked at Kirk, reused in dozens of future episodes whenever something strange appeared on the view screen. A similar clip was filmed of Walter Koenig during Season 2. This is the first regular episode of the original series produced following the pilots. It is also the first episode to feature Kirk's famous Space, the Final Frontier, monologue in the opening credits. A front-on close-up of Balak without the rippling distortion of his image as seen on the main viewing screen was the final shot of past episodes that was displayed in many of the series' end credits. In Inside Star Trek, The Real Story, Bob Justman explained that he superimposed the credit executive in charge of production Herbert F. Solo over Balak's image as an in-joke. Justman later secured a screen grab of the shot and kept it in his home office, in what he called the cheapest, junkiest black frame he could find. Although the script instructed Spock actor Leonard Nimoy to emote a fearful reaction upon his first sight of the Balak puppet, director Joseph Sargent suggested to Nimoy that he ignore what the script called for and instead simply react with the single word, fascinating. The suggestion of this response helped refine the Spock character. This is the first episode to use the cello theme arranged by Fred Steiner. The DVD and Blu-ray prints incorrectly used the original theme recorded for The Man Trap. Well, folks, I don't know about you, I found that somewhat interesting. Alright, time to finish this beer and get out of here. Empties the brain cells of, Ray Rice. Alright, it's time for me to get out of here, so y'all have a good night or day. Don't do anything I wouldn't do, and if you do, name it after me. Don't drink and drive because, well, you might spill your drink. But more importantly, you might kill yourself or somebody else. And drinking and driving is dumber than being a Sequest fan. And what's dumber than that is rating for wife beaters like Ray Rice, fake friends, people who welch on bets, animal abuse, racism, or anybody who supports, defends, or is a member of the Westboro Baptist Church. Things like that are just plain stupid, and I don't have that kind of time for that sort of shenanigans. Folks, y'all have a good evening, and as always, live long and prosper.